run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run.
Hey,
Run,
girls,
rabbit,
American
run,
girls.
rabbit,
It's me and
run,
Celia
run,
again,
run.
in kind of a different type of
Bang,
episode,
bang, bang,
because we
bang.
thought we would take some time to talk to you guys about American Girls, without a book involved. Mostly because we're both really, really busy and the book episodes take a little while. And yeah, we got some stuff to do. So we wanted to kind of give you guys a little content in between Kirsten and Samantha while we prep for Molly. And we're just going to kind of go through the girls so far and how we felt and all that fun jazz. So
Right along.
right along with us as we talk about Kirsten Larson and Samantha Parkington. So, Celia, we've talked about before on the show a little bit, but like, what are your peaks and pits of Kirsten and your peaks and pits of Samantha?
Okay. My peak of Kirsten, barn raising.
Barn raising, okay.
Well, I was gonna say dead guy, but that feels a little
Feels a little
gauche.
dark.
Yeah. So I think I liked the barn raising. It was the most she felt like a little girl I could relate to, like so desperately wanting like friends and community to come around her. And even though it was like ultimately like a barn raising and also it's your birthday, I liked that part the most. And then my pit with her was the Saves the Day book. Hated it. Don't care about it. Not Saves the Day. Yeah, no, Saves the Day.
Yeah, Saves the Day. Yeah, that's the one with the bear.
Yeah. Boring. She doesn't save the day. She then, in fact, like ruins her whole family's life next book. And then fixes it. Then saves the day.
You didn't like the 4th of July party?
No, it was boring.
You didn't like that we found out that Lars was a whittler?
It's like, what if her... You know how Samantha's side characters are so interesting?
Yes.
It's crazy how I can't say that about almost anybody in Kirsten's books.
Kirsten?
Yeah. What is your peak and pit?
My peak and pit of Kirsten? I think my peak is honestly finding a dead guy in a cabin. I think that is a bold move for a children's book, and I thought it was funny and unexpected and kind of just gave me a weird thrill that I was like, "Oh my god, we're going there." And then I think my pit was Kirsten learns a lesson.
Okay.
I felt like we talked about it when we were doing that episode. I felt like that was like 2 different stories that could have been done individually better than they were combined. Like the fact that there's this whole story where she's learning English and struggling to learn English, but on the side she's like having this like clandestine like friendship affair with the singing bird. Like honestly, it would have been cool if Kirsten saved the day somehow for Singing Bird and the Native Americans, which would have been a lot white saviory, but it would have been a slightly more interesting. Like, what if she had met Singing Bird in Kirsten Saves the Day, right? And her family had been trying to find the honey, and Singing Bird and the Native Americans taught Kirsten how to get the honey, right?
Right.
And then Kirsten saves the day by like doing what she did, which is like doing that. But then the end, we still have kind of the ending of what is it? Sorry, Singing Bird's tribe having to move on. Yeah. And I think that would have been a little bit more. Honestly, I think I just came up with this right now, and I think it's better because I think it would have been interesting then to have like the Independence Day party, and like I remember that they talk about how there's like songs from like Germany and Sweden and like all these people coming together, and I think it would have been a more interesting contrast kind of to be like, huh, there are actual people who were born in America who are being moved along. Like I think it just would have like I feel like you could have had both stories, and I think the issue with Kirsten Saves the Day is that it was kind of like a non-story, you know? Like out of all of them, I feel like that one had the least plot involved. Totally.
Well, because your pitch, like you've already said, your pitch gives it a lesson to be learned that she then saves the day. And then it also, if they do move on at the end of that book instead, teaches her that even though they are living with the land in a better way than the pioneers were, they still can't settle and live in their historical lands anymore.
Yeah.
Which also teaches kids more of the lesson of the historical context. Because I know I bitched about this when we read her books in the first place, but you don't get the sense, truly, of like, I mean, you get like the generic pine experience,
yeah.
But yeah, I think your version would be better. So I think we should write in and we should
Yeah.
modify the books.
And ask them to change. Ask them to change them 25 years later. 20 years later. 40 years
So
later?
more than that, right? It's like a haunting
Oh, like
number.
84, yeah. So, yeah, 41 years. That's crazy, actually.
Yeah. Oh my God, these girls are that old?
These girls. That's kind of not a good thing. So what is your peak and your pit of Samantha?
Oh, my peak of Samantha is that there were 2 love stories that
Yeah.
both got happy endings. I liked Cornelia and Guard because they're young, hip, changing
Hot.
people's minds. Slay. I like old people love because I like old people yearning and then getting a happy ending. My pit, quite honestly, might be Samantha learns a lesson because it is I was actually like kind of when I was getting ready for this episode, just like looking back over the outlines and stuff, I was like, I should barely remember that book. It is consequential in that it talks about,
Child labor.
Nellie's background and child labor, but most of half of the book is kind of Samantha just being like, la la la, I need to win the contest.
I think, and well, it's like interesting because we're doing Molly starting this week. So we're recording Meet Molly and Molly Learns the Lesson. I mean, I need to read Molly Learns the Lesson. Have you read it yet?
No, I've only read the first one.
Okay. It'll be interesting to see because I do feel like the Learns a Lesson books struggle the most so far. I feel like they might be the hardest ones for whoever writing these to write because you have to teach it has to be a school story. It has to talk about school in that era and then also figure out how to like
Teach a
hamp
lesson.
a lesson into it. So honestly, I bet I'm gonna just make a bet now. I bet Molly's will be the best Learns a Lesson because school is more modern in that one. And you can kind of more relate to like the type of drama or that like it was so much more near, like we just said, it was 40 years before
Right.
the Molly books that Molly's time period took 40 years after the Molly books that Molly's time period was written. It feels more
Right.
like
So it's more young.
it feels more like it
recent.
might be a cohesive story than the other school stories you've read, if you know what I mean by that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was going to guess her learns a lesson is going to be about like rationing and things like that. Since it's already kind of been talking about that, I almost wonder since she has such a big family.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about her books other than the time era,
Mm-hmm.
and that people think she's annoying.
Which we'll find out. I think my pit was the Christmas story. Samantha Surprise. I think we had fun with it. But it felt like there was no plot to it. It was just vibes. Like
Yeah.
Samantha didn't even like which I just feel like with it like it kind of brought to the one like writing flaw we kind of had with the Samantha books too, where she like, likes Cornelia and then she doesn't like Cornelia and she likes Cornelia and then she doesn't. And I get that we were supposed to kind of see in that Cornelia was putting in an effort to like befriend Samantha and be cool for her. But we never really get, like you kind of mentioned, a reason why Samantha sometimes is like, oh, Cornelia's so cool and so glamorous. And then she's like, thank God Guard didn't bring Cornelia with her. And it feels like that even with like the whole book is like kind of culminating in this idea that like Samantha is blaming Cornelia for her Christmas being bad. And then she never even has like a fit at Cornelia or something, you know?
Right. Yeah, I
She
agree.
she just like Cornelia like offers to make a gingerbread house with her and all of a sudden she's like, you know what, Cornelia's great. Like there could have been like a little girl lesson in there that was told better. And kind of like we were saying with that book too, it also felt like a lot of the drama or the anguish that was being caused to Samantha could have been avoided by adults like communicating things better to her, like telling her earlier on that Christmas was going to be different that year because they had Cornelia coming into town. So they just felt like the one with the most plot holes kind of.
Yeah, I agree.
Besides the lack of a marriage timeline.
Well, that too.
And then my peak, weirdly, I think my peak is a nostalgic peak and it changes for Samantha because I thought it was so cool that Cornelia and Guard adopted all 3 of the girls. Like it was when I was little and I read that, it was like my like orphan lore fantasy. I was like, oh, this is exactly what should happen. This makes perfect sense.
This is good.
So, as an adult, insane. Probably wouldn't have happened. But as a nostalgic kid, I loved that.
No, I like that. It's good. The orphan fantasy is real.
And so what are you now feeling now that you've read 2 full American Girl doll books series?
I think it's funny now reading them as an adult because I think I would have liked them as a kid. And we've talked about this. I had Julie and I had a Look Like Me doll, but I really didn't have any exposure. I think I wanted a Kit, but I just wanted her because she was blonde. Like, I didn't know any of the girls' lore other than the one doll I owned because she was the only book that I got. So I think that they're fun. I think they're interesting. I get why people are so like fond and affectionate of them because I feel like if I had read them as a kid, the way that you have like a nostalgia for them, regardless of what you do and don't remember, I think I would have had that same feeling versus just like I just get to enjoy them from a little bit more of an irreverent place.
Yeah.
Because I'm not like rereading them as an adult and having like my opinion be dramatically
Mhm.
changed or shifted.
Well,
So
and it's kind of a little bit we've talked about it before and we've maybe have mentioned it, but if we like decide we want to continue doing this podcast after we finish the American Girl doll books, we talked about reading the Dear America books, which I think you're a little bit more familiar with.
yeah,
And
those are
I
those
think,
Royal Diaries.
yeah,
Those
and the
like
Royal
women
Diaries on our
books. Yeah.
Patreon. So
Oh my gosh. On our Patreon?
check out our Patreon, guys. But I think we kind of discussed it, and I think the thing that so the Dear America books are a little bit more advanced than the American Girl doll books. They're a little bit they're for a slightly older age. Like I would say these are for 8 to 10-year-olds, maybe 7 to 10-year-olds. And I
Yeah.
think I would say that the next age group, like 10 to 13-year-olds, is for Dear America. It's
Yeah.
a little bit more advanced, a little bit more mature stories. But I kind of feel like the fact that I read the American Girl doll books is what got me into the Dear America books because it was just cool being a little kid and like reading about like Kit who like I thought looked like me and was like
Yeah.
my age and was doing cool things in a time period that I honestly as a 1930s that as a 8-year-old, 9-year-old I knew nothing about, you know?
Right.
And or seeing like Samantha or like I grew up in Maryland near the Eastern Shore, so hearing a lot about the like in Addie the Underground Railroad stuff was really cool to me. It just kind of I think it's cool for little kids and stuff to kind of learn history through that idea of
A
like
new
girls
kind of
their
angle.
age. Yeah, and kind of relate to different girls because I did like a poll in a group that I was in about who everyone's favorite girl was, and unsurprisingly, most people were like, X girl, because she looked like me, you know, or
Right. Yeah.
and I think there's something nice about kind of learning history in a way. Because I mean, we joke about it on this show, we we all have historical fixations, you know, and a lot of that came from reading things as little kids. Like I would read I think I read the Royal Diaries of Elizabeth Tudor, and it was allegedly a diary written by like 10-year-old Queen Elizabeth. And
Right.
I got so obsessed with the Tudors after that. Like we had
Yeah.
briefly learned about it in probably like a page in a history class at some point. But I started like in the back of those books they have kind of their own peek into the past where they tell you about the history of the time period. And I got so interested in the Tudors and it's been one of my like lifelong obsessions since then to know everything about the Tudors. And sometimes I'm shocked when I meet adults who don't know the exact chronological order of all of Henry VIII's wives and don't know anything about, say, Anne
Right.
of Cleves or something. Because it seems like I don't remember having to learn that, but I know I actively sought that knowledge, you know?
But
So
then
it's
you
just
still have it too.
yeah, I think it's just kind of cool to see kind of the seedlings. It's kind of cool for me to go back to this, I guess, and see kind of the seedlings that kind of made me a history nerd as a kid.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because, and I also read like Magic Tree House and stuff like
Oh,
that, you
love the
know?
Magic Tree House.
Did you read their Titanic book?
Of course.
And they
And the
went what?
dinosaur one and the tower one, where there's like a
The
magic
Tower one.
tower.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know if I read that one. The
And
Titanic one
then
is the only one I really remember. And then they meet like a Guinevere or something, don't they?
yes, there is a Knights of the Round Table-esque one. And
Zach,
then
it's Zach and Annie, isn't it?
I think you're right. It's been a
Or is
while.
Matt and Annie?
Let's see. I'm looking. Jack and Annie.
Jack and Annie. Okay, I was so close. Yeah, I think history is cool, and I think
Yeah.
reading American Girl doll books was one of my first like forays. I think Magic Tree House is around the same reading level, so I imagine I was reading them at the same time. But I think it's kind of a cool way to introduce kids to a larger subject.
Yeah.
You can read because I'm sure some kids read them and just put them down and didn't
Didn't
okay, cool.
interact further.
But I remember being like, "Oh my god, child labor? What's that about?" Or like cholera. What I remember Wikipedia and cholera. You know?
Yeah. But it makes you more curious, which I think a good kids book should do.
Yeah.
Because at some point, like your parents and your teachers can only give you so much knowledge. At a certain point, you have to decide to like seek out more of it on your own. So I agree. I think it's nice when book series exist for kids that are gateways
Mhm.
to more. Because I think we joked about it where it was like, in the P into the Past and Samantha learns a lesson, it's like, yeah, child labor was kind of bad, but then it ended eventually and kids got to be kids again. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, that's not quite how it went. But
This actually brings me to a good next question I have. What do you think was the most egregiously misrepresented part of American history so far in the American Girl in Samantha or Kirsten?
oh, do you have an answer?
I think I have an answer. I can go
Okay.
first if you want me to.
Yeah, go first. I'll have to think. Okay.
I think the Native Americans in Kirsten Learned the Lesson were so like we talked about it in the episode, but it was so insert like 1950s Native American stereotype here, you know? There
Oh,
was
yeah.
no mention of what tribe it was. Just like, and I know it was kind of based off the time period, but there's even that line in the one book where she's like, "I'm gonna take Blackie the horse and ride as fast as an Indian," and it's just like, and I did like that they acknowledged that the Americans had to move on because the population of the settlers was making hunting scarcer in that area for them. But it was so kind of briefly acknowledged as kind of almost like a oops. It was like this bar's crowded, like we're going to the next one. It wasn't like
Yeah.
this is our bar and we got kicked out of it, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. It's interesting reading it knowing that Kaya comes down the road.
I know. I can't remember if Kaya's done well or not because I read it when I was 10 and it seemed great to me. But I had like a
Right.
Pocahontas fixation at the time, so take that for what you will.
Weigh it out on the judgment scale.
Yeah. That or I think the kind of we talked about in the last book, but the it's so brief, but the weird like kind of propaganda-esque paragraph about immigration in the US and how eventually they all assimilated and became good citizens even if it was tough.
Here's the thing. I would have to go on a deeper dive. So those
Mhm.
listening understand that I say this with a speculative asterisk in the corner for all of it. But there's been a lot of videos and like commentary YouTubers who have talked about that the American Girl company, Pleasant Company, that started it, did start out initially as more of a educating and opening up the world for girls to see themselves in all these different ways, but that more modern people who've taken over have taken a little bit more of a conservative angle on like their marketing and approach and like the way that they talk about different things, historical or otherwise. And so I do think that it's not totally surprising to read those books back and kind of be like, well, yeah, when you're saying American girls, the moral of any of the stories can't ever really be that America has been bad,
Yeah.
including because so many of the girls are immigrants or come from immigrant families, maybe not so many, but a decent amount of them immigrate or their families have, and are like setting down new roots. You know, like Samantha obviously is not that in the way that
No,
Kirsten
Samantha's family
is.
came over on like the Mayflower.
Yeah, and Molly's not a good example either, but the later girls, right? That almost like second gen of girls that came after the initial 3 white girl like me, if you will,
Yes.
collection. So I think I think that that's maybe more the bigger mark, right? Which is you can't criticize America properly in a book that's meant to make little girls be like, I'm an American girl.
I get it. And I mean, I was even
Yeah.
just as you were saying that, I was kind of thinking about it, and I almost wondered too if so Kaya is from the I'm gonna maybe mispronounce it, but I'll try it, the Nez Perce tribe. So it's Nezperce spelled in English. And it's a tribe that's in Washington State. And her book takes place in 1764. And I kind of wonder if they put it so far west, so far in the past, so they wouldn't have to address kind of white settlers coming in, because we didn't head over to the West
Right.
Coast really. I mean, I think maybe French trappers did, but again, I don't know fully. But we didn't map out or even have that territory and do the whole Lewis and Clark thing until I think around 1800.
Right,
So it
until
feels like
our
kind of like,
country's been established.
yeah, it feels a little bit kind of like, oh yeah, Kaya is way back in history, because that way we don't have to talk about the fact that like all the bad stuff is still 50 years away. So I kind of wonder if they did it like that on purpose, which I bet they did.
Well, because you could have had an American Girl, and maybe this is something I'll do more research on, because is Kaya mine?
I think Kaya's yours. Yeah, because I have Addie. So we both have one that's going to be difficult.
Yeah, so I think this is maybe something I'll do a little more research on too, but I think you are right, because she could have been a more modern girl who does, like, live on a reservation and explore things like that, but unfortunately, there's a lot of problems with
That are
that.
hard to talk to kids about. And I get it. Like, I get that
Yes.
this is
No,
10-year
right.
reading level. Yeah, and I know, like, we'll get to it when we get to Addie, and they
We'll get to
definitely
it.
yeah, we'll get to it. They definitely shy away from some things, but Addie is not one of the more, like, fun books. They're not, like, pretending that everything was, like, nice, it's not one of those,
Yeah.
like, noble slave owner type situations where it's like, "But she had the one good pair of slave owners," you know? I know, like,
Right.
I don't remember fully, but I'm pretty sure her brother gets, like, beat and whipped in the first book.
Sure.
Like, it doesn't I won't say, like, it goes there, but it definitely is a little bit more of the, like, "Hey, this is gonna be,
This happened.
yeah." And I know her Changes book is not fun. I know it's, like, kind of, like, sad, because I remember reading it and being like, "Oh gosh, no."
It's kind of like the end of Kirsten, though, where you read a book, you read the story, and then you hit the end, and the peek into the past, and I know we talked about this, is basically like, yeah, her life would have just continued to be hard and kind of miserable, and she wouldn't have had a lot of things happen for her.
I know, I did like an end of Kirsten where they talked about all the innovations that were coming to farming, and they're like, "But that would not have helped Kirsten a lick because she was in the house, and none of that stuff came for, like, another 50 years."
And also poor.
For Kirsten.
Poor Kirsten.
Poor Kirsten indeed.
Well,
Right. Anything else
there's
you wanna say
no
just about the books in general? Because we have a little fun part coming up.
I was gonna say. Uh, no, I think my thoughts can be found our thoughts can be found in the collected episodes before. So if you're listening to this
If this is your
and you're
first
like,
episode, what are
"I
you
want these
doing?
blonde women to say more," go back.
If
Look
you're thinking,
deeper.
"I'd like to hear these blonde women talk about a children's book for 90 minutes straight," go back. We got that covered for you,
The internet truly does have everything,
including us, and we're
including
here for
us.
you. As the audience has been, like, begging for, like, clamoring, all like, if you scroll through all the comments on all of our videos,
It's hard, there's a lot.
there's a lot of comments, and there's a lot of people asking. We would really love to hear what fanfics you guys are writing about the American Girl dolls. And so Celia has come up with the titles, the categories, I believe, and the log lines for 4 different fanfics that are currently almost done.
That's right. And the proof is you just have to believe with your heart.
Yeah, you'll see them one day. Don't worry about it.
So, with that, are we ready?
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
Okay. Number 1. Steam in the haystack. Papa X Mama. That's the ship. Okay. Porn without plot. All consensual. Spice level high.
Oh.
Hey play.
Oh,
And
hey.
then loving romantic couple. And then aftercare.
Okay, so is
And
this...
then before that, BDSM.
Oh, wow. So is this baby Britta's origin story?
I think so. If you were to plug it into the timeline, yeah. Oh, and the log line is Papa comes in from a long day of working, and Mama is ready to help him relax. I imagine, like, she's a take control kind of lady. So he goes out and he works all day. He doesn't want to keep providing in the bedroom. So she's like, lay down. She takes good care of him.
Is there safe word enough?
Yeah. Stop.
Let her have her tears.
Perhaps in this one, it would be hey, due to the context. But I like
What's
enough.
the word for hey in Swedish? Hey. It's literally the exact same. Hey. 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 Getting hot.
Hang on. I'm going to look up what daddy is.
It's gonna be like pour or something.
Oh, this is boring.
Papa. Papa. Papa.
Why does she say it like that? Papa. She sounds... How about mama? Let's see. Mama.
Mama.
Yeah, you know?
Mama. Why are you saying it like
Thanks.
that?
Yeah, she's just needy.
Mama.
So, there's that one. Number 2, we're going to stay with the adults, okay? I've got some kid ones that are... we'll separate the sexual ones from the children, which is good. Okay. Second one. Touch-starved under the starlight. Do you want to guess who this one's about?
Is it Grandmary and Admiral Archibald Bemis?
Just could be so, yes. Very much. Okay, first tag is yearning.
Mm-hmm.
This one's a multi-chapter fic, okay?
Oh.
And it's a song fic, which a song fic is when you take songs from an artist and then you put the lyrics in the fic. So, like, it'll be a line of the lyric and then it'll be plot. And there'll be another line of lyric and then plot. It's like a divider.
Is that popular?
It was... Here's the thing. It was popular when I was growing up, but I have not seen a lot of song fics in, like, modern era fan fiction.
Okay.
So the last fan fiction I ever wrote in its totality was... I finished it my sophomore year of college, and that was a song fic. And it was set to Tudor Cinema Club songs.
Okay.
So it was really just for me. But it is my best performing fic. This one is set to the Killer's music.
Of course.
Of course. So chapter 1 is Shot at the Night. Classic Killer song. I would say Admiral Archibald Bemis. Was that his name? Archibald?
Archibald Bemis, yes.
Bemis, yeah. You know, I would say his theme song's Mr. Brightside. Aw. Also, so because it's a multi-chapter fic, I figure we start when they're younger. They have a dalliance in their youth.
Ooh.
Then she meets her husband. And then it's 4 chapters of yearning. It's his POV for those 4 chapters. And
so
then
I guess
like...
my quick question is for you before we move on from that. Before you go further.
Yeah.
Do you think Grandmary ever loved her husband, or was it like an arranged marriage and she always loved Archibald Bemis more?
Okay. So I don't know your personal opinions on the novel The Great Gatsby.
I enjoy it.
Yeah. So I imagine it's a little like a Daisy and Gatsby situation, which is, I do believe Daisy did once love Gatsby, but I don't believe that at any point when they reconnect that she loved him again.
Yes.
I think she loved the attention. So I think it's like, I think Grandmary really did love her husband, but that her husband wasn't her soulmate. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
The Gatsby thing wasn't super helpful there, but it was what came into my head.
You think it was like a convenience love?
Yeah, the way that, like, Daisy's husband, whose name I can't think of right now. Tom. Yeah, Tom Buchanan. Yeah, the way that,
Where it's
like
just like, he was a steady person, and
yes.
he fit the bill that she needed at that time.
I almost wonder if Archie wasn't proper enough in society, so he had to go make something of
He's an
himself
admiral, so he had to, like, maybe move his way up the chain a little bit with, like, a military.
so that he could feel like when it was time again, he was worthy of her.
That's fascinating, and it does
Yeah.
take place in New York, you know?
Yeah, and I imagine there's a couple chapters that take place over in England where, like, her and her husband go, and they have, like, a drunk, raucous night out, and then
Well,
they, like, speak under the starlight together, and there's some, like, yearning, touchy hands and stuff. A little a la, like, Matthew and Mary when Matthew has that other guilt girlfriend who dies suddenly because they were done with her.
what's her name? It's like it's insane. It's like,
Something with an L?
yes, it's like it's a very old name. I literally was just on, Downton Abbey, like, Reddit before this. Lavinia Swire.
Lavinia?
Lavinia Swire is her name.
Oh, that's a good name.
Yeah, and she dies of the Spanish flu.
That's
And
right.
she was oh my god, that's just one of my favorite plot points in Downton Abbey is when, Matthew comes back from the war and he's, like, paralyzed from, like, the waist down, and, like, a whole half season plot point is the fact that, like, Matthew can't fuck because
Yeah. He'll never sire a child.
no, there's literally a conversation where, like, Lavinia's, like, crying, and she's like and Mary's like, "My dear, what's wrong?" And she goes, "I would just" she's, like, worried about Matthew, and then, she goes, "Oh, we'll just never be able to be married." And then, like, Mary's like, "Of course you will." And she's like, "No, we'll never have a proper marriage." She's like, "Oh," and the music, like, goes like, "Nah, nah." And
Mary's
then
like,
a minute later, he, like, is like, "I feel something funny," and he can walk
I feel
again.
something. Ha! Do you think he was lying? And do you think he could walk the whole time?
You think he was just doing it for attention?
Well, I kind of like feel like Matthew's kind of a freak. I do sometimes wonder if he like knew he could do it and then was like, maybe I should see if these women still love me. Like, when girlfriends are like, would you still love me if I was a worm?
Yeah.
I feel like that was Matthew's version.
Would you still love me if I was a wheelchair-bound cockless loser?
Yeah, would you still love me if we could never have a proper marriage?
Well, it's always funny too because there's that doctor who's always wrong.
Yeah.
He's, like, the town doctor. And he's like, "Matthew will never walk again." And he's like, "William's gonna be fine. Lavinia's gonna be fine." Everyone dies.
It's
And then
cool
the
to
one
be a
time
liar.
they listen to a different doctor and Sybil dies.
Yeah, that is kinda it's an insane track record to have.
It's hard to be a village doctor, I think, at the end of the day.
So, yes, those are my first 2 for you.
So just a real quick
Yeah.
critique or note for you.
Yeah.
Can we put, because of what you said about the Gatsby thing, it made me think, can we put, Young and Beautiful by Lana Del Rey somewhere in the Under the Stars fanfic?
It could be the,
Can there be, like, a line
the
from it in every
epilogue.
chapter? Would that be cool?
well, what we could do is in each chapter, it could be a line of dialogue.
I like that. I'm gonna cry thinking about it. It's gonna
Could be
be good.
cool. Well,
It's gonna
I'll
be
see you there.
Alright. Alright, now, everyone, we have decided that we're going to give each other some little hypothetical questions. So I asked Celia to come up with, I think, 4, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I'm gonna come up with 4, and we're gonna ask each other hypothetical questions about Samantha and Kirsten. We're just gonna do a little bit of a brainstorm for the last, like, 15 minutes of this.
If Samantha were to be a TikTok influencer, what do you think would be the first thing from TikTok Shop that she would pick to promote?
Ooh, that new, hair dryer that everyone's promoting.
The Dyson Airrack one?
Yeah, it's like that, but it's not Dyson, it's like a cheaper version. I think it's
It's
done by,
the Shark one?
it is, but it isn't. It's literally like a brush that you, like, fold it's like one of those curly brushes.
Oh,
And you,
the
like
ones that heat up?
and you fold it over. I've seen it on a few different ones. I think she would be a hairfluencer because she's got, like,
Bow
beautiful
alert.
yeah, and the bows, like and so I think she would have to be something like, "You guys, I just discovered this new, like, like blow dryer that like cuts your time getting ready in half, and it's like her doing it like fast motion, you know?
Perfect. And she's like, so sleek. She's like a
Yeah.
jump cut because she doesn't actually use the product.
No, because Nelly has done it for her.
Yeah, 100%.
She's like, you can do it yourself, and Nelly did it.
People are like, justice for Nelly. She's always in the background. And Samantha's like, first of all, she hates being on camera. So you guys wouldn't even know. Stop being this way.
I think she would promote that, and then I think she would just get like some deal with like Ulta or something like that to promote like hair products.
Yeah.
Like
I like that.
like bows and headbands are kind of back in a little bit.
That's true.
And I think she would be like a like bowfluencer if there is such a thing.
I was gonna say that's definitely the like influencer product she would start. You know, where every influencer, I feel like that's into fashion suddenly starts a fashion line, but then half of them are bad. I feel like Samantha would start a bow and like hair accessories.
Well, because I think she would do like get ready with me videos.
Oh, 100%. And then
Like-
she'd be like, and a bow to top it off. Bye. And
She's
then
like,
leave.
story time. I broke my friend and her 2 sisters out of orphan jail.
She would big time be a story time
Yeah.
vlogger.
And
Oh
she's
my
like doing
God.
her like makeup while she's like telling you like, and so then does Nelda Fauci.
You guys wouldn't believe this crazy bitch, Tuz Nelda.
I can't believe this story happened to me.
You guys won't believe what orphans live like these days.
Yeah, I think she would do. I think she would have kind of a like a very basic influencer account. Like,
Yeah. But I feel like she would have like millions of followers.
yes,
Like easy.
because she's just a pretty white girl
Well, 100%.
and she's rich. It would be one of those things where it's like, you know, I feel like I'm a little older now, but I feel like when I first started watching TikTok, I'd be like, watching people and I'd be confused by how nice their house was, and I realized it was like their parents' house, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
It'd be like people who were like probably in their like early 20s, and I'd be thinking like, oh, like, how does this person afford this mansion? And then it's like, oh, it's their parents' house.
My parents take care of everything for me.
Yeah, she would be. I definitely think she'd be like, because I do think she would be like a hair and stuff influencer because she wouldn't want to like show her wealth, you know? So she wouldn't want to do like travel and stuff like that because that would ask too many questions. But with hair, it's like, no, but I did it all myself, and that's kind of
It's
just
all me.
you know?
Well, just me.
She has Jessie help her come up with like outfits and stuff.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's like all the labor behind the scene that we don't see.
Yeah. A little.
But she means well. It's just again a little girl, some wash your face.
Girl, wash that bow.
It'd be fun, guys. One day when our NDAs expire, we'll talk to you about our time working for an Austin influencer.
You want to know something nuts? I don't even know that I signed one when I left.
I don't think they logged my NDA actually because
Wait, Dad, because it's her fucking.
Yeah. I logged into my like account and my NDA was unsigned. So, but
Anyway,
we'll do it, guys. Just if you're interested in drama.
it would really just make her look worse than ever if she did get.
And yet it would do nothing at the same time. So it's kind of a harmless like interest.
Yeah, that's how I feel, right?
Join us on
Anyway.
Patreon.
Yeah, for the uncensored version where you can hear who we're talking about.
But we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about no bleep censored Robin Brown from Sister Wives and the fact that she's bought $62,000 worth of doll clothes.
We should find a video that has all of the things she's bought and then make like a tier ranking on a episode, like a bonus
Of
up.
which ones are worth it?
Yeah, like S tier. I would also buy that doll dress, or like F. Like,
You didn't need that doll dress.
I suspect not, babe.
I bet there's gonna be a lot of F tier. I don't think she has great style.
No, I don't think she has good taste at all. Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you a question now.
Okay, I'm ready.
Let's see. Boop, boop, boop. All right. Give me a very brief can you give me a very brief epilogue for Kirsten and her brother Lars? It can be separate, but Lars is the one who found the dead body. Or maybe a prologue for Lars because we wondered how he got so hardened.
Okay, an epilogue for Kirsten. Okay, and then a prologue. Okay, for Lars,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm gonna give Lars like a book.
Okay.
Mine is Lars Gets Lost. Okay. So mine is that Papa
And
brings
every
Lars.
chapter is just called Lost! !
Yeah, every single one, but every time there's more exclamation points because his situation gets increasingly more alarming as we go on. Okay. So in Lars Gets Lost, chapter 1, Papa and Lars go on a hunting trip. This is the first time Lars is being allowed to like test out all his skills he's been honing. He's like ready to prove himself to Papa. Papa gets his leg stuck in a bear trap, and Lars has to find his way home to get help. But Lars gets lost. So the other 3 chapters of this 4-chapter I've decided book are Lars getting increasingly more concerned that he's never going to make it home. Also, surprise blizzard part 2. Papa is going to freeze to death if Lars doesn't even get home by the end of chapter 4. But Lars doesn't know how to start a fire.
We should have told him.
Yeah, so he scolds Papa and says, "You should have trusted me with the kindling. Papa, please. Papa, please.
Papa.
Papa." And then I think what hardened him is that he comes across a horse in the woods and he has to decide whether to eat the horse or ride it home. So he decides to spare it and he rides it home, but then the horse collapses from fatigue
And that's what hardened
and
him.
dies. Yeah.
Not Blackie though, right?
Not Blackie, different horse.
Whitey.
Whitey. Some other guy's horse. Also, Papa's fine, but we don't actually address that in the book.
Yeah, Papa's leg injury is gone by the next book.
Yeah, 100%. He's totally fine.
I like that. I think that fits Lars.
You know what? No, at the end, Papa has made a swift recovery, but they have to ship Lars off to that logging camp to go in Papa's stead, Mulan style.
Ooh.
So
changes for Lars.
Changes for Lars. That's how Lars gets hardened. Okay, and then Kirsten epilogue. I think
Does she marry Jon Stewart?
I was gonna say, I think she marries. I think she has 4 kids. I think she
You're all named Marta.
100%. Marta Jr., Matthew, Matu. Those are her 4 kids. And then I think her husband dies at age 30. And she is 24 when this happens. And she has to raise their homestead by herself. And then when she turns 30, Singing Bird returns. And they become lesbian lovers.
I like that. That's kind of a nice ending for Kirsten.
Yeah, I didn't want it to be all depressing. But she would... I think she pumped out those kids.
At the time, they were roommates.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, the book would never tell you that they were lesbians, but it would be, like, heavily implied that they, like, loved each other more than friends.
I like that. I like that ending for our girl.
Thank you.
Set her free.
Let her go into the sweet, sweet unknown.
Poor Kirsten.
Yeah, her life is tough. Okay. If Kirsten time traveled to today, what do you think the scariest thing is, modern invention-wise, that you could show her? Oh, and bonus, this isn't what I read originally, but bonus, what would you give her to go back in time with? So what's the scariest thing you could show her that would, like, frighten her? And then what would you give her to make her life better to go back with?
I would give her a fire extinguisher.
That's so evil.
And just be like, you need this.
You're gonna need this, babe.
You're gonna need this again. We don't want to repeat. You can only find so many first. I think the thing that would, like, really, like, fuck with Kirsten's world is I was gonna say, like, an AK-47.
An automatic weapon.
Yeah, because if you think about it, they're like out there like trapping, and like they might have like a musket, and they're like.
That's tough, but I think you're right.
to see like the absolute devastation of like an AK-47, I think would just like melt her mind. Because I was gonna say a
Yeah.
car originally, but she kind of was like a little exposed with the train thing, you know?
That's true.
And I honestly think trains then were scarier than cars now.
Oh, I think so.
And then like the only thing I think that'd be like, oh my god, what hath humanity wrought? It's like an automatic weapon.
Oh, yeah. It should be like, oh, I would never be afraid of a bear again.
Yeah, exactly. It would help her, but
I like that.
let's not get too deep into that.
So true.
All right, then my next one is would you rather be friends with Singing Bird but have the language barrier, or friends with Marta but you know she's going to die of cholera? Like, but you don't know when. You just know that one day your friend's gonna get sick and die of cholera.
Okay, I
But you
guess
can
I
never
would
learn Native American language.
I was gonna say, okay, I guess optically,
Mhm.
as a local white girl from an immigrant family,
Mhm.
uh, in my grandparent line, I feel like I'd go with Marta, but only
Mhm.
because I think the optics look bad if I am, like, a white person who's like, "No, no, really, you guys, this is my indigenous friend. We're homies, I promise. I can't tell you what she's saying, but I promise." You know what it makes me think of? In Parks and Rec when they're hosting Harvest Fest, but Sweetums is, like, threatening to, like, fuck everything up for them, or, like, that Big Gulp and the councilman that doesn't like her, and so they all have, like, a round table, but Leslie is homies with, like, one of the key figures in the native community of the Wamapokes
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
in Parks and Rec, and he's like, "Why would you do that, white man?" And then he goes and he, like, blesses the festival when everything is settled, but he just says, like, bullshit and is
Yeah.
basically like, "I'm not saying anything that means anything." That's how I feel like it would look if I was friends with Singing Bird, but we couldn't talk to each other.
I think that's fair, and I think, you might get, like, brownie points when your friend dies too. I was like, "Oh, Celia."
And Karen, that's really what this is all about. Finding friends that I'll get brownie points and sympathy points for when they die. I need to have enough friends that as they start to go,
People are
I
like,
can
"Poor
go,
Celia, she's so brave."
poor Celia, she's breathing all these deaths in her life. So,
I like that. I think that's a fair thing. I think, yeah, if you couldn't translate with, like, a phone or anything, it sounds like how deep can your friendship get, you know? It's very, 90 Day Fiancé with couples who speak not like of the same language. It's like, how much can we can enjoy each other and we can kind of vibe well, but are we really, like, close?
uh-huh. Knowing that Samantha lives through many more modern crises in her lifetime, if she were to make it to old age, and we'll say old age is 80, 90 for her. What thing do you think she would be the biggest advocate for in her lifetime next, after the passing of women's voting rights?
I think Samantha would have gotten into the civil rights movement. 'Cause she
I
kind of
think
has
so.
a little bit of that with, like you see little inklings of that when she's confused why Jesse, who she loves and thinks is so cool, and Lincoln, who she thinks is, like, the coolest guy, had to live in a different part of town. So, I think she probably would have been, like, a, like, saucy old 60-year-old woman or, like, 70-year-old woman, like
Yeah.
I don't think she would have been an active participant in it, like, let's be clear, I don't think she would have been, like, in Selma.
Yeah.
But I do believe it would be, like, she would be, like, talking to her grandkids about, like, "Oh, I absolutely believe, like, in this Dr. Martin Luther King." You know? Like, I think she would've
Yeah.
kept up with it, you know?
Yeah. I like that.
But
I
I do
agree.
think she would've been pro-Vietnam more.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know why, I just get that vibe from her.
You can't change everything.
No. She seems a little bit warmongery with how much she likes to tussle and fight.
Well, I was gonna say she's got a bit of gumption,
She's just got,
but
like, an
it's probably
American
not
streak to
always
her.
good.
Yeah, I don't see her being a hippie at all. I think, like, there's a difference in a suffragette movement and, like, a hippie movement, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
But
Yeah.
I do think at her core she believes that everyone is like equal. And so I do think she would kind of be like, yeah, let's hear
do
what this
it.
guy has to say, you know?
Yeah.
She might accidentally stumble on the I have a dream speech when she, similar to Grand Mary, is like stuck between two parks in downtown DC. And is like, I heard this lovely man give a very eloquent speech to a bunch of hippies.
A bunch of those hippie children.
Yeah.
What
So
are they
I
up
think that would
to?
be Samantha's like next thing.
Okay, I like that.
My question for you is a little bit similar vein.
Okay.
So, what do you think Samantha did during World War One? Did she become like a nurse, like civil? Did she do anything, or did she just like support from the home front? Or second question, did Nellie die of the Spanish flu?
Oh, okay, wait. How old would she have been during World War One?
It's 10 years from this book, so she would have been 20.
Okay. Okay, so
And the US wasn't really involved, but we were a little bit involved.
I guess I don't think Nellie dies of the Spanish flu because I feel like she gets access to a little bit better of like a health and life. And I know the Spanish flu spares no one,
Yeah, Lavinia Swire.
but I think she's okay.
Okay.
I think her life was hard enough.
You think her life became easier after age 10?
Yeah, so I think maybe even though Lavinia was also like a wealthy, well-off person, I'm gonna say she was okay because I don't want her to die, you know?
Yeah, she had enough.
Yeah, I
God
think
gave
she
her
can
enough
make it to old
battles.
age. Yeah. No, one of her sisters, maybe.
Bridget or Jenny?
Jenny. I'm just, pick one off. And then I think, I feel like Samantha might go be a nurse.
I can see that kind of.
Like
Like a
maybe,
Sybil-esque, you know?
yes, like, or even when, is it Thomas when he goes and he is like fraternizing with that soldier at the clinic in town
Mhm.
too? Yeah.
He becomes
Like,
Thomas becomes like the ward of the so Thomas puts his hand up in the trench to get his hand shot.
right.
So he's honorably discharged. And then
Right.
he becomes like, because he's like a lieutenant or something. I don't know
Mhm.
all the military terms.
Yeah.
But he has some sort of ranking, and so they basically like give him the leadership role of kind of like de facto, almost like don't want to say leader of the hospital, but he has some sort of authority position at the hospital to kind of oversee from like and report to the military, I think, on how things are going at the hospital.
Okay, so I don't think she does that. But I
I could
think
be
like
wrong.
Matthew's mom, his
Oh
level
yeah.
of involvement and everything,
Yeah, she's a
Samantha
very
coded.
charity. Yeah, she does a lot of like the charity like fundraisers. I bet Santa would like make quilts and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, maybe I feel like she would go. Okay, I guess here's the thing: World War
Socks. Can you
One.
make socks? Sorry.
Oh, 100%. I was like, World War One. I think she goes and is a nurse and does like stitching people up and like helping things like that. I think World War Two, if she's like alive and kicking and around.
She should be just 54.
Yeah, right? So, yeah. So
Yeah.
in her 50s, because she's not as spry, I don't think she does the nursing shit again. That's when I think she uses her wealth, which she will have likely inherited because I would assume by this time Guard is probably dead. Or
Say 70.
old. Very old.
He's
It's hard to
70.
tell, right? With
Grandma's
like
dead.
Grandmary's dead for sure. So Samantha probably has a little bit of money
Mhm.
from that. But I think in her 50s in World War II, she's probably doing much more of the like community fundraising, rallying. I feel like maybe she organizes like some of the morale boosters for our boys. Like,
Do
I
you
feel
think
like
she
she
had a
maybe.
victory garden?
Oh yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think she took care of it. I think she hired people.
Heck.
I think the one thing Samantha would never have let go of is hired help of some kind in her home.
I agree. I mean, even we see in Molly, they had a housekeeper.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they're not like, they don't seem like they're poor, but they seem very middle class.
100%. Like, they're definitely both parents need to be working,
Yeah.
but they both work enough that they can afford.
Can you imagine just having a regular job and being able to afford a housekeeper?
No.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Just to have like
But even like I feel like if you and I were like a household together too, it would still be like, would having a housekeeper be worth it?
To cook for us? Can we
Yeah,
still
but
young
like
treats?
also, but like the money, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
but right now, as we speak, she could be making us cookies.
I mean, that's true, and that would be great.
What if we only hired her for like 3 hours a day?
3 hours a day?
Yeah.
That still feels expensive.
Probably so expensive.
I think that's like my problem. Like, right? Like, it has to be somebody's livelihood.
Yeah. Well,
So.
like a part-time job.
Anyway, you know? Yeah, a part-time.
All right, what's your last question for me?
Okay. Do you think Kirsten so disregard my epilogue for her.
Yeah.
Do you think Kirsten, and I could be totally wrong, I did not look up a single other thing for this, so let me be so clear about that. Do you think Kirsten would have given up a homestead to go pursue the dream of gold if that is in her timeline?
In
With
California?
a husband. Yeah, or like anywhere in the West with like the westward expansion stuff. You
I
think
think
she
she
would give
could.
up?
I think if Jon Stewart wrote her a letter and got
Mhm.
back to her and it said, "Hey, we're really enjoying California. It's been really cool. Wish you were here." And he wouldn't imply that he wanted her to come. He would just say like some kind of arbitrary "wish you were here" thing. And Kirsten would go, "John wrote me a letter. That must mean he wants to be my friend. That must mean he wants me to come to California." And I think she would go.
Okay, I like that.
She's a little bit of a brave little girl. She's always like out by herself in the woods, and she kind of has that cocky mentality that because she was friends with a indigenous American that she
Yeah.
knows the land. So I think she would
gets how it works.
I think she might go by herself. Or like with a Oregon Trail.
Yeah, with like a caravan, but like
But she might go to
on
settle
it.
out west, you know?
Yeah. I like that.
I can see Kirsten doing that. And then maybe dying on the way.
Oh my god, yeah. I do feel like she'd fjord the river and she would drown because I don't believe that girl knows how to swim.
And the ghost of Marta would come back to her.
Oh my god.
Be like, hello. Hello.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Hello. That is powerful. It's beautiful.
And they're both little kids again on a boat.
I like the end of Titanic. I like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
That's good.
Rest in peace, Kirsten.
Rest in peace, Kirsten.
All right, my final question for you is, how do you think Grand Mary took the news that Guard and Corndog adopted 3 orphans?
Oh my god.
Because remember, Grand Mary didn't really see them as people.
Yeah, I think she First of all, I think she'd faint. And I think Bemis would need to have some smelling salts ready. So there's that. And then I think she would go, oh, why worry myself? Because she doesn't have to. They're not her responsibility. And she's gonna die.
And she's in Greece.
Yeah, she's sailing around. So I think she doesn't care. I think she would faint at the shock, and then I think if she were to visit, I think she would make a rude comment. She'd be like that type of grandmother where, like, she doesn't like approve.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think Grand Mary is not like modern women where, like, so many people are estranged from family members because their grandparents feel like they can say and do like whatever.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm old and I should be able to. I think, like, Grand Mary still has a little bit of that sense of a lady only shares so much.
Yeah.
So I feel like she would be like, I have opinions. They will not be being shared.
Yeah, I think you're right, but I also think there's an element of it where I think she wouldn't care because I don't think she would fully ever understand that they, like, adopted them.
Yeah, she might just think that they're, like, permanent help.
Yeah, I think she would always
Until she dies.
I think it'd be kind of the same attitude that she had when Samantha's like, Nellie's my friend, and she's like, no, you're helping Nellie. Nellie's not your friend.
Correct.
It's like,
yeah,
Nellie lives in the
can't be
house.
friends
She's
with
not
her.
your sister.
Yeah, that's not a friend. That's a worker.
What do you think Nellie and Samantha's first fight as sisters was about? Do you think Samantha's
Oh
like,
my-
now that you're rich, can I have Lydia back?
Oh, probably. What? But we just talked about that. We know. We
Lydia's
feel
gone.
Lydia's
Yeah.
gone. Lydia's
Well, yeah,
over
and then she
party.
tells her that Lydia's gone, and she's like, how the fuck did you lose her?
I think their
Mondal.
first fight. Honestly, I actually think the secret evil truth of the Samantha book is I don't think Samantha would enjoy the novelty of having attention now be split between her and 3 other kids.
She's not gonna like it.
So I actually think
Especially the
The
little
crit-
kids who are cuter and need more attention because they're like, because Jenny's
yeah.
like 3 or something.
Yeah,
Like,
so I was gonna say, I think the Samantha Christmas book showed us what her life is going to be like, because I think she is lovely, and like I think you said this, less of a brat than perhaps both of us truly thought based off the court of public opinion around some of the girls. However, I think, because I said this to my mom the other night on the phone, if I could pick a sibling, and I understand sibling relationships aren't perfect. You know, my parents are not super close with either of their sets of siblings. But like, if I could pick, I'd pick an older sibling, but I think I would be a good older sibling. As like Celia right now. If
Yeah.
nothing changed, I just had a sibling, I would want an older one, but I would think I'd be a good big sister. I don't think Samantha wants to be a big sister.
she'd be better as a little sister, I think.
Yes.
She will never
Because
have that chance now.
I think Nellie would never let go of the fact that she lived a different, harder life.
Well,
Because think about the way that they talk in some of those things, right? Where it's like, Nellie has an admiration, but Nellie's also like, you don't really get it, Samantha, because you haven't lived a very hard life.
well, and I also think Guard and Cornelia will be a little bit like sweet on the new girls. And I do think there's gonna be things like, oh, look, Nellie like helps out. Like, Nellie, you don't have to help out. Like, Nellie's doing this. Like, Nellie's probably like still trying to be servanty a little bit.
Helpful. Yeah.
And like, she's more self-sufficient that she's a fucking 10-year-old who like goes looking for a job, who can literally live by herself, apparently. So I think like they're gonna be like, wow, look at Nellie do all this. And Samantha's gonna be like, I can do that too. Like,
Nellie's going to crash out. Or Samantha.
if we had another book, it would be like Samantha trying to cook something and like catching the house on fire.
I will say I am low level interested in the next book, which is Nellie's like promise or whatever. There's like there's a bunch of the mystery books, but there is one Nellie book that I think came out with Nellie's doll. It's her in the blue dress.
In the photo,
And
where
I-
she's like,
Yes, and I think it is about like her adjusting. So I would be a little interested to read that book just because.
we can put it on our
I
Patreon.
just- Yeah, I just can't imagine it being like, I mean, it's an American Girl book, so I'm sure it's not going to go horrifically wrong. But I think if it happened in reality, I think it would be bad.
No, maybe after we're done with the main series, we choose one of those each unhinged extra books from a girl and read
Yeah, I
it.
like that. I like
And just
that.
like go back in order. So we choose like one Kirsten, one Samantha, one Molly, and just do that for like a few weeks before we start the Dear America, if we do that.
Yeah, I like that.
Cool. Well, guys, this has been our like little random episode. We, like I said, we didn't have enough time. Like, we were supposed to record the Molly episode, and then we like lost track of time, and like they take forever to edit. So like we wanted to do something that was just quick and easy. We did not have like outlines for this, so if it seems a little bit worse,
It's just Vibe City over here.
but this is just so that you keep us in your feed and you remember us. So share this with your friend who is too busy to create a podcast this week.
Share this with your friend who said they wanted to start a podcast with you but didn't.
Share this with your friend who looks like Kirsten.
Share this with your friend who looks like Samantha.
Share this with your friend who's coming to our bar crawl on March 15th.
Share this with your friend who you wish would go down a dark alleyway with you and share a secret.
Share this with your friend who you would give a gingerbread cookie to.
Share this with your friend who you wouldn't tell about an ant infestation in their bedroom.
I mean, me, honestly, I have so many ants in my apartment. Like,
Well-
they're coming out of nowhere. Anyway, I'm gonna
They're
go
sneaky.
deal with that. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening. Share this, like this, subscribe. Blah, 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 blah.
Leave a comment. We love you.
We love you. We love you.
We're rooting for you.
And we're rooting for you. Bye.
Bye.
Bang, 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 bang goes the farmer's